Sengupta. My guest at the moment, in a very somber moment from Israel, joining me from Israel, is Mati Gill. Mati is one of the most influential and well respected CEOs in Israel. He's very prominent, his work is very prominent, especially in the pharmaceutical sector. Of course, at this very difficult moment, I invited Mati to have this conversation with me to try and understand. A lot of people are saying this is an epochal moment in the journey of Israel as a nation and the Jewish people. From his vantage point, as a social leader, as an entrepreneurial leader, how does he see this? Thanks, Mati, for joining me.
Thank you, Hindol. And it is, in fact, a very somber, sad, um, and, and moment of anger, I would have to say, for us here in Israel. We were surprised yesterday by a very vicious, well-planned sneak attack against Israel and against Israelis and against humanity. It was not a military attack in any shape or form. It was against all of Israelis, no matter how old they are, no matter how young they are, no matter what physical condition they are in, no matter what sex they are from. This was a complete attack and slaughtering and vicious, evil attack against people, first and foremost. And this is something that is leaving many of us very angry, very sad, but also very determined.
Tell us a little bit about people around you. What is the mood? You just explained a little bit about what people are feeling, but what is the mood on the ground? Are people, extremely angry? Are people backing a very strong response to this? What is the mood of the nation?
So I think the mood of the nation, first of all, is being very sad and shocked by what just took place. This is something unlike anything we've ever witnessed. To put it into context, Israel is a population of 10 million people, roughly, a little under 10 million people. Right now, it's been said that over 600 Israelis were murdered yesterday. And that includes, of course, women, children, and elderly, butchered, sometimes as families. And the only way to compare it, I think, would be 9/11 in the United States. And this is at least 3 times as many people were killed here in Israel during these attacks by proportion than were killed in 9/11 in the United States. So the mood of the country is first and foremost starting to come to grips with the incredible sadness, a lot of anger, and primarily towards our enemies and the terrorists that decided to initiate this attack. There will come time later on to deal with internally about how we let this happen and to be angry at those in government that allowed this to happen. But we will save that for a later time. And I think the mood of the country is starting to show our true spirits of Israel in determination to understand that we don't have any other choice but to win this war. So you asked if we are going to have a strong response. It will not just be a strong response. It will be a response that will reflect the need on the ground to rid ourselves of Hamas, full stop. And at the end of this war, I think most Israelis do not want to see this entity taking any part in any type of discourse and to have any presence on the ground at the end of this. And it will take as long as it takes. It will be as hard as it should be, but we will wipe them out.
Yeah, I've also wanted to ask you, one of the most horrifying things for people around the world has been in this entire conflict, seeing women and children, elderly women, young women, quote unquote, being taken hostage, being tortured, crying children being taken away. Now, these are war crimes. Even in a war, you attack the soldiers of another country. You cannot attack civilian population, especially where women and children are concerned. Talk to us a little bit about the feeling about that, that a rave party, for instance, in southern Israel was attacked by paragliding Hamas terrorists. Um, is there particular anger about this aspect of these attacks?
There's complete outrage about this. It shouldn't surprise us because we have always held ourselves in Israel to a higher moral standard, and we will continue to do so, of never targeting innocent civilians, let alone women, children, and elderly. We know that our enemies do that purposely. They do that twofold. Both they target them directly and kill them and attempt to kill them. This is not innocent bystanders in a war between military entities. These are terrorists that are going out, seeking out children to butcher. But secondly, and then their leaders cowardly hide in hospitals and in schools and amongst children, so knowing that we are holding ourselves to a higher moral standard so that we will not attack them. And hopefully our message will be clear that if you are a woman or a child and an innocent civilian in Gaza, you should get out, because we are not going to let them hide behind you anymore.
Mati, I also want to talk to you because you're such an influential business leader. I want to talk to you a little bit about the response of the very influential Israeli business community, including its world beating startup community, its technology companies, its security companies, and others. What has been the response of the business community in Israel?
The business community is made up in Israel of amazing human beings with incredible spirit. They are the first to go and volunteer for reserve duty. They are the first to be involved in elite military units. They were the first to get organized yesterday and go to report to military duty once the attack became evident. And they are first in lines, and those that are not serving are actively trying to do anything they can to help families that were displaced and to help the civilian attempts. We've seen also in the internal disputes that we've had here over the last 6 to 9 months that the high-tech and business community in Israel has been very vocal and active in defense of Israeli democracy. And I think those two elements are very coexisting, because if you are willing to do everything you can to defend your country and to use all your creativity and all of your resources and all of your energy to be able to defend your country, you will do that whether it is from enemies from outside or threats from within. And that's what we are seeing.
I ask you also about the business community because Israel also has a world-beating security industry. Some of the best security companies in the world are in Israel. One of the things that shocked many people around the world is Israel is renowned for having one of the best technology and intelligence infrastructure in the world, including, of course, the very famous Iron Dome. Is there any assessment yet, Mati, or what is the response to the fact that that legendary, in a sense, infrastructure did not seem to quite work in the way it has worked in the past? We have seen in the past videos of rockets being fired, hundreds of them at a time, but the Iron Dome, managing to, shield Israel from most of them. This time, that didn't seem to happen. Any assessment, anything that, that's coming out about that question?
So I think you're asking a very good question, Hindol. First of all, the Iron Dome did work very well last night and yesterday, just like it did over the past decade or so that it's been within the Israeli arsenal and capabilities. And it, over the last decade, has helped us to de-escalate issues. And the casualties that we saw yesterday were primarily not from rockets that were that were shot from Gaza. The vast majority of those were intercepted. Iron Dome works fantastically. It's a genius piece of technological military defense capabilities, and thankfully it is protecting Israelis all throughout this country. What we saw yesterday that was different is that our enemies decided to plan an attack and to be able to smartly bypass the capabilities on the technological side that Israel has built up. And it is a failure on our part that we allowed that to happen. It will never happen again. We tend to learn from our failures. It doesn't make the failure any less traumatic and any less shocking. But obviously, it was a failure. Sometimes you cannot rely only on technology. You need to have boots on the ground, and that was a tremendous problem that we had yesterday. But we will learn from it, and we will continue to use technology to protect Israelis and to win wars, alongside the amazing human spirit that exists within the Israeli military.
I also want to ask you, Mati, various quarters have various opinions about this, on whether, in any shape or form, the two-state solution can ever be revisited, or is that completely off the table? After such a devastating incident, the worst in Israeli history, what do you think is the general mood about something like the two-state solution?
I think it's completely irrelevant to discuss at the moment. It's right now Israel has to defend Israel, and unfortunately, on the Palestinian side, the only leadership that you find there are fundamentalist terrorists, and that is not someone that builds a state. That is not someone that you give a state to. There is no room to have any discussions with them at any certain point. The so-called Palestinian president and leadership there hasn't been elected, hasn't even had elections for the last 15 years. It's a completely corrupt regime that supports terrorism, either passively or actively. And of course, the Hamas, we've seen that they're a proxy by Iran. That is an absolute terrorist and fundamentalist system. So what we've never seen on the Palestinian side at any point is non-violent leaders that have helped to build nation states and helped to build and fight for people's rights. You've seen those types in India. We've seen those types in Israel. We've seen those types in other countries that are more focused on taking care of their people and building nation states. In the Palestinian territories, in Gaza especially, we're seeing butchers that call themselves leaders, and that's not someone you can have a discussion with. You have to kill them.
Of course, a lot of people are also revisiting for younger generations who may not know this around the world, instances where Hamas has, in a sense, jeopardized every peace overture. In 2005, when Israel moved all its troops out of the Gaza Strip, removing its settlements, removing even graves to ensure that the entire area was cleared. Hamas promptly, of course, went and destroyed even the greenhouses that Israel had built, and promptly started firing rockets, building tunnels, and so on and so forth. Before that, of course, Yasser Arafat walked away from that famous peace negotiations. When people of Israel, when people like you look at the future, what kind of future do you now envisage for your region?
We have to continue to protect our country, to build our country, the state of Israel, across every piece of land that we control at the moment, without any misconception that we will ever have anyone to talk to on the other side. The burden is on the Palestinian side to ever show that they will care about their people more than they care about killing ours. They have never shown that at any point of time. Whether it was Yasser Arafat, that we gave him every opportunity that he decided to squander. And of course, since his death, we've seen that the Palestinian Authority has completely been corrupt and not taking care of their people, and have given over control of Palestinian areas to Hamas and to Iran and the proxies that control, and to the fact that they're an Iranian proxy. I think discussing any options for peace in the future is just completely irrelevant with these people. We're talking about people that came in unprovoked into Israeli towns, sought out to kill young kids, elderly people, families all together that were hiding, and then they hunted them down to kill them brutally, without mercy. These are not people you have a discussion with. So as far as the region's concerned, we can continue to make progress with responsible nation states like the United Emirates, Arab Emirates, hopefully with Saudi Arabia down the road, with Egypt, to strengthen our peace with Egypt and with Jordan, continue to strengthen our peace with Morocco and with any other country. And we need to, as a globe, we need to eradicate countries like Qatar that give housing and residence to Hamas leadership, that openly celebrate the butchering of young children instead of arresting them and killing them. That should not be a country that should ever be allowed to host a World Cup anymore, or any other type of international event. They should be completely thrown out of the legitimate group of global nations. And we should draw a clear line that there are those that are for humanity and for rights and for the good of humanity, no matter where you are from. And there are those who are terrorists and that support terrorists and that are completely evil at their core.
In conclusion, Mati, I want to ask you, since you mentioned a host of countries, how worried do you think people in Israel are? Because there are reports that, for instance, Iran is very close to developing its nuclear weapon. Very recently, due to a particular deal, $6 billion of Iranian money was, defrozen, so to speak, by the United States. Some people are saying some of that money could have actually come to the hands of Hamas, for instance. How worried do you think the people of Israel are at developments like, for instance, perhaps Iran getting its own nuclear weapon?
Of course, the Israelis are worried, but we are also very determined and very confident in our capabilities. So I would not suggest to any country in the world to ever test us.
We leave it at that, on that powerful note. Mati Gill, thank you very much for taking time off to talk to me. I hope, and indeed, in my country, we all hope and pray for the well-being of you and all the people of Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hindol.